morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. There you go. Honorable Deputy Minister in the Ministry of Health and Child Welfare, Dr. Paul Chimedza. Country Representative of UNICEF, Mr. Reza Hosseini. Deputy Country Representative for UNICEF, Dr. Jane Muita. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm sure everyone's happy that they got to miss some school this morning, right? Good morning and welcome here to Alliance Française for the first UNICEF Activate Talk here in Zimbabwe. It's the second time that it's in Africa, but we're glad that the next edition is right here home in Zim. My name is Zororo Makamba. I work at Telecel. I oversee public relations, sponsorship, and digital media. And I'm also a talk time presenter on ZFM Stereo. But this morning, it's my great honor and privilege to be moderating and facilitating this discussion that's going to focus on local innovations that we're going to hear from these 6 amazing people that are changing and improving children's life. So that's what we're focusing on today. Local innovations that are changing and improving children's lives. And also UNICEF will be celebrating their CRC at 25, and I believe that the country representative is going to go into a bit more detail about that and what they'll be doing to mark that occasion. Let me run through the agenda real quick. We're going to hear some remarks from Mr. Hosseini, as well as the keynote address from the Deputy Minister. And then we're going to hear from these 6 people while we're here to find out phones. Before we forget, let's put our phones on silent. Then we're going to hear from these 5 people, to hear about what they've been up to, why they're sitting on these chairs, and what they've done to change and improve our children's lives. And then we're going to have a Q&A session. Is there anyone who's on Twitter? Hands up. That's good, that's good. We're going to have a Twitter feed over here to my right, and the hashtag for this event is UNICEF Activate. Yes, UNICEF Activate. I was going to mix it around. UNICEF Activate. So please, if no one's going to take offense if we see your head down and you'll be tweeting on your phone. We hope it's not WhatsApp, but we want to engage people, as we call them, twimbos. In the Twitter sphere, so definitely contribute. I believe there's free Wi-Fi. It's Mavis. So those who have smartphones want to access free Wi-Fi and not worry about your airtime, please do log on so you can contribute on Twitter. There's going to be some closing remarks and we'll be done. So sit tight. Hope everyone enjoys this. Young people, we want to hear from you. We want you guys to come up and ask questions. We want you to challenge these people and tell us what you guys want now, what you want in the future, because you guys are the leaders of tomorrow. We hear that all the time. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our country representative here for UNICEF to open this auspicious occasion.
Good morning, everyone. And sorry for the delay in starting. There was a bit of confusion, but we're delighted to have our guest of honor, Dr. Paul Chimedza, the Deputy Minister of Health and Childcare and a dear friend of us in UNICEF. Also, I would like to welcome all of you, young people, children, adults, and especially to our innovators. Today is your day. This is, as you heard, is the Activate Talk of UNICEF in Zimbabwe, the 2nd country in the continent that is conducting this Activate Talk. And as you briefly also heard, this year marks the 25th year of the Convention on the Rights of a Child. And most of your children, you know, there was a milestone 25 years ago where the governments of 182 countries, they came together to ratify the convention. In the lead up to commemorate the events on the 21st of November, UNICEF is organizing a series of talks on innovation for equity in 25 countries. So we are one country, Zimbabwe is one country among the 25 countries around the world that conduct this Activate Talk. What the event does bring, as it was mentioned earlier, it brings together experts, innovators, and thought leaders from all walks of life to discuss their innovation and how collectively we can change the world better for children. But let me just quickly say, why innovation for equity? Definitely the world of today is much different from the world that we had 25 years ago when the convention was approved. And also it's a different world for the children like you. When I was your age, the nearest phone booth, the nearest telephone calls were at least 10 kilometers away from where I was living. But where is it right now? How far is a telephone from you? How many of you have a cell phone? Bring it up. You see, it's not even an arm's length distance. So that's the way the world has changed. And also, if you look at the life of the children over the past 25 years, we see because of the efforts of a lot of people, for example, in the health sector, we have seen a sharp decline on maternal and child mortality. We see when we had the convention, more than 12 million children every year, they would die of preventable diseases. Now that has gone to about 6, a little more than 6. So there has been a huge improvement. However, what we see that despite all those changes, unfortunately, the world is not good for all children. Millions of children, they live a life of poverty, they are exposed to sexual abuse, violence, and also very often their opportunity for better life is robbed because they do not have access to services and they do not have access to equal opportunities. So the point is that as the world moves ahead, is leaving some of its children behind. And therefore, equity that we are all here today for means that every child has an opportunity, deserves an equal opportunity to life. Innovation for equity means that we find ways of removing barriers that denies children to grow to their full potentials. Another thing about innovation, there was a time that innovation was very much a monopoly of the few in few capitals around the world. But the very fact that we have these innovators here, it shows that innovation now it's possible that it can happen anywhere, any part of the globe. And we in UNICEF, we hope that by having this activated talk, we will bring these innovators of the world together and help, first of all, help to, in the areas that we can help to expand and scale up the innovation that they have had, but at the same time tell the world that there is a bottom-up approach also to innovation that can actually make the life of, make a difference in the life of children. So we are all delighted to have you all here. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. We look forward that our innovators, Zimbabwe innovators, they actually shine in the global setting that we will have in November in New York, and we set an example that some of the good work that you have done in Africa could also be seen and could also be heard around the globe. Thank you so much for coming here. I look forward to hearing the outcome of your dialogue with our innovators. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. I just want to add my 2 cents as to what the country representative said. These platforms are wonderful. These platforms are necessary. We actually need to see more platforms for young people to be able to be heard and to contribute and to be able to hear from people who've walked sort of where you guys are in terms of what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve, some of the challenges that you're facing. And we're going to hear from the 5 speakers today, but there's a tendency that we have here in Zimbabwe. The tendency is that, well, look, if we have any challenges or problems, why don't we go over next door in South Africa and bring someone in to consult? And I'm sure the deputy ministers, you've probably heard, well, why don't we get someone from China? Or we fly people in from India with regards to things in the health industry. Or let's bring someone in from the West because they're established, they have a big name behind them, it's a well-known country. But we have people who are changing lives right here in Zimbabwe. And I think we should be able to celebrate that and really embrace that and begin to tell our story and push that. And I'm sure you're going to hear that throughout this morning. So that's just something to keep in mind. Up next, I'd like to ask the Deputy Minister to come and give the keynote address. Dr. Porchimeta.
Well, thank you very much, our Master of Ceremonies. Let me acknowledge the resident UNICEF resident rep, Mr. Reza Osaini, and your deputy and your team from UNICEF. Let me also acknowledge the innovators here. And this is an interesting platform and something like this, like he's aptly captured it, is something that we, as the leadership of the country, always get excited that we get our innovators here who really, at intellectual capacity level, are able to do great things. Most of the time, they don't have the platform to do those great things or for people to appreciate what they do. So this is really an excellent initiative for UNICEF. Let me congratulate you for running with it. I'm delighted that UNICEF has organized these talks to promote dialogue and innovations that have the potential to benefit children, especially the poor and marginalized children. The world we live in today has made progress. Child mortality is declining, school enrollments are rising, and technological breakthroughs are taking us into a territory no one thought possible only decades ago. Technology is taking root in Africa, more evident in mobile phone technology, which has not just made communication easier, but has revolutionized the way we do banking. I think you all are aware of the way people who never used to bank are now on EcoCash and they can save on EcoSave. It has really changed, and they can get loans on the same platforms. The way we transmit real-time data and the way we monitor programs. Mobile phone technologies are being used all over Africa to solve problems and address inefficiencies. But innovation is not only about mobile technologies. It is about out-of-the-box solutions that can solve some of our most pressing social problems. In this regard, Zimbabwe has always blazed the trail, especially in health and education. We were amongst the first African countries to adopt the expanded program for immunization and the supermarket approach. This meant that a mother and a child could access all preventive and curative services during a single visit. This has become now the norm all over Africa, but it was initiated here. You also hear of how low-cost water and sanitation inventions by Dr. Peter Morgan that have not only been adopted by the government of Zimbabwe, but are also widespread use all over Africa. These inventions have saved and continue to save countless lives. In education, Zimbabwe was a pioneer in involving communities in the running of schools. The concept was, and still remains, so strong that almost all primary schools were built without any monetary input from the government. Today, community participation is now regarded as an integral part of child-friendly schools. We need to recover our pioneering and innovative spirit. I challenge all the thinkers, the engineers, the doctors, scientists, technology enthusiasts to rise to the occasion. The social problems we face are well known. Lack of access to services, poor quality of services, and so on. But it's not always the case that the solutions lie from outside. And I think Mr. Makamba put it very well here that sometimes we look to the east, sometimes to the west, sometimes to the south, but we don't look to ourselves. And yet, we only start to make progress when we ourselves initiate change and pursue that change. So we're glad that it's happening, and we as government will really be backing this all the way. We need new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things, and we need to cultivate a very strong social entrepreneurial spirit, one that refuses to accept things as they are and seeks solutions that will better the lives of others. This is the essence of UNICEF's Activate Talks. It is my sincere hope that you listen to the presenters this morning. You will be inspired. As you listen to them, you will be inspired to be a problem solver, someone who will be remembered for the good that you brought to our nation and to mankind. I thank you.
Dr. Porchimedza, thank you very much for your remarks. As someone who works for Telesar, I noticed that you mentioned our competitors there. So I just thought I would, use this platform to also say, Telecash is also revolutionizing the way we do our banking. Okay, testing, good to go. Time for our speakers. Why we are here today. Who's heard of the Blair toilet? I think we all have. All right, on my far right is Dr. Peter Morgan. He has, for the past 4 decades, dedicated his life and work to improving water supply and sanitation through low-cost practical solutions. He is the inventor of the Blair toilet that serves more than 3 million people in our country. He invented the bush pump and continues to improve on his inventions and his passion to make them accessible to people from all walks of life. He holds a PhD in marine biology from the University of Hull and has done extensive work on ecological sanitation. King Carl XVI Gustaf of Sweden presented Peter Morgan with a 2013 Stockholm Water Prize laureate for his work in water and sanitation. And ladies and gentlemen, he's here tonight, this morning, to talk about water and sanitation. And you can follow his presentation on the screen to my left.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Minister, Resident Representative of UNICEF, colleagues, friends, and particularly young children. I'm a granddaddy. I guess if you didn't know that I was a granddaddy, I adore children. And I think that the little story I'm about to tell you this morning concerns school children and also a lovely project I've worked together with my very good friend and colleague, Annie Kanyemba, who is right now in New Zealand. But it's a fascinating story. Very, very briefly, I'll go through it with you because I think it concerns all of you as well. And I've been amazed what young people can do. And there's no one of you out there that can't do the same. I've just got to work out the electronics on this one, but I think I should get it right. It's innovations for children in the wash sector. And, it works. Great. Well, I think the main thing that I wanted to say is that we all use innovations, all of us. And those innovations in the wash sector, as in others, are best, of course, also used by children. And there's no better place that can be taught than in the school. And I wanted to talk to you very briefly about the work that Annie and I have done, together with the school children and the staff there, in the area of hygiene, water supply and sanitation. That's the main thing. Well, you've heard about the Blair VIP. It was actually named not after a Prime Minister, but actually Dyson Blair, who was my great colleague and friend many years ago. Dyson Blair. Now, it's a technology which has been endorsed by the government of Zimbabwe for a long time. It's used in schools and, of course, private homesteads. But what I wanted to tell you about today is the fact that it can also be built by children. And special design changes have been made and methods of construction have changed so that it can be built by children. And that's very fascinating. You should think that children can't use cement or bricks. Of course they can. And there are some master builders I've seen about that big. They're brilliant. So I like nature. I'm a biologist. I like shapes and things like that. The spiral shape is very strong. But the innovation, in a way, here is the use of these wooden guides at the ends of the walls. That's the real innovation. And by using those simple guides, the children can use bricks and mortar to make a simple structure. And they enjoy it too, very much indeed. I've got to be quick. There's a lot more information that's available to you. We have just a few minutes. Hand washers. Well, hand washers are so important in our lives. I guess half of you here have access to a hand washer close by. What about the other half? And of course, the transmission of disease takes place so much through the hands. And one innovation, amongst others, is the simplest thing. It's an alloy can that can also be made into a hand washer. And the children at Chizungu School won a great prize for showing hundreds of school children in Harare how they can make this simple hand washing device. It is so simple, and it's a way of recycling. There's a picture there. And there's another interesting Zimbabwean innovation which dates back a long, long time, the very first tippy tap. You've all heard of the Mkhululi, the gourd you'd find in the fields. Well, that's been copied, if you like, and is now made. And I have one in my secret bag, which I'll show you a bit later. And it takes 2 litres of water, and it can actually give you about 30 to 40 hand washes. It uses water economically but efficiently. And that's very clever, and it was actually designed by a Salvation Army doctor. So the medical profession has its great uses. Family wells too, also a favourite of mine. We've also taught the children how simple improvements in well design can improve the quality and the safety of the well. And that work, I believe, is very important. And in fact, Zimbabwe pioneered the concept of self-supply officially in this country. And that method, that concept of families looking after themselves in terms of water supply is now widely used throughout the developing world. Another simple one, the kids can make too, a pump, actually, from a tube. And I have a sample here too. And it's a very interesting concept where one can drill a tube well by hand and actually use a tubular bucket. That's a very interesting one. And now our beloved bush pump, probably one of the oldest hand pumps in the entire continent. I'm delighted that the government of Zimbabwe is still backing it up 100%. Many years ago, we tried to make it user-friendly so that kids could actually do some parts of the repair or maintenance service. In my retirement, because I'm actually sort of retired, although people like me don't really ever retire 100%, one of the great challenges that I'm now working on quietly is to make that pump maintainable by the children. It's being done quietly. Steps are being taken to make it user-friendly so that the great mission could be, with UNICEF's help, we get a pump at a school which can be sorted out by the school. With help. With help. I don't know, I'm running out of time. Somebody will indicate to me if I'm going over my time. The other interesting part of the work we did in ecological sanitation was to demonstrate how effective urine, which is not the most favourite word in the world, but it contains an awful lot of nitrogen, and how you can increase the production of vegetables, maize and trees by using diluted urine. You can see the huge spinach there, prompted by the use of diluted urine. Also trees in woodlots. You know, woodlots, I think, are very often grown in schools to provide timber and fuel. Also, discarded urine, if carefully looked after, or carefully, what shall I say, controlled, its use is controlled, can also turn those small seedlings into huge trees. And that's very interesting. And the conclusions, well, it's pretty obvious. These are some few examples of how school children can really get involved, can do things themselves, not just listening, but doing things. And they're so proud of what they've done. And as part of this presentation, I made a small, I call them Roxios, but they're actually slideshows to music, which I'm hoping you will see sometime, which actually shows how enthusiastic the kids can be, because they've actually done something. And if there's a toilet, you can actually mark it. You can mark the cement with your name. And that proves to me that they're so proud of the achievement. So I think that's my little story. Thank you very much.
I stay on a farm just outside of Harare, and my mother and I, who's at the back, there's a few. Mom, you can stand up. There's a nearby farm school, and she supports a lot of the farm workers' children who work on our farm, and she takes them to school. And one day she said to me, their toilets, they can't use them anymore. And I said, what do you mean? I think we take our flush toilets for granted, And she says, well, the pit toilets, the Blair toilets, they're clogged up. And there's about 3 or 4 that are clogged up, and the kids haven't been able to access them, use them. It's beginning to smell. The environment for teaching has become a bit difficult. So I went over with my mother, and we saw the situation there, and I personally was very humbled. And something as basic as just using the bathroom, it's amazing to see how many people actually rely on these Blair toilets. And what we did is we did a fundraising initiative. We got some women's organizations together. We raised the money, and we managed to have the waste, the truck waste disposal people come, and they flushed everything out and they cleaned it. And just to see the response and the look on those kids' face, it completely left a mark on me. And I'm encouraged now to go back and say to them, you know what, you guys can actually build more of these on your own. And I'm sure Dr. Morgan, I'll be getting in touch with you to let these young people know that we don't have to And to let them know that we don't have to rely on people and we'll pull you out of your semi-retirement. Thank you very much for your contribution. Up next is Dr. Sekesai Zinyowera. She's a doctor of philosophy, degree in the Department of Medical Microbiology. A lot of biology today. She holds a master's degree in medical microbiology. She's currently the coordinator of the National Microbiology Reference Lab, which is under the Ministry of Health and Childcare. She's an avid researcher and published the first paper on CD4 Point-of-care technologies in the International Journal of AIDS. She's passionate about her work in HIV and AIDS and has been working on point-of-care technologies for almost 5 years, and she's here to talk to us a bit more about that. Doctor, over to you.
Okay. My acknowledgements to the Minister, to the Deputy Minister, Dr. Paul Chimedza, the UNICEF representatives, and everybody. Morning to you all. I would like to talk about my experiences concerning the PIMA point-of-care technology in Zimbabwe. Okay. I would like to ask, this is the structure of my presentation. What is the CD4 cell count? What is this PIMA point-of-care that we are actually talking about? The evaluation we did, the operational research, and the other point-of-care technologies that are actually in place. But I would like to ask the school children, we are back to school. Don't think you've run away from school. What is in our blood? What is our blood made up of? Can you tell us? Can you tell me? What is in our blood? Yes? I said you, sorry?
Cells.
Yes, there are some cells, isn't it? So which type of cells are in our body? Yes?
White cells.
White cells, and then what else do we have? Yes?
Blood cells.
Red blood cells, okay. So what is the function of a red blood cell? What is the function of a red blood cell? Yes? To carry oxygen. And then somebody said that there is also white cells. What is the function of a white blood cell? Yes? To fight against disease. So what is a CD4 cell? You said the white cells are to fight against disease. And a CD4 cell is a white blood cell which actually also fights disease. So what is it that happens? Sorry. So what is it that happens when somebody is now infected with the HIV virus? Yes?
The body can no longer fight against disease.
What would the HIV virus done?
Kill the white blood cells.
Yes. So the HIV virus actually kills the CD4 cell, which is supposed to fight away the disease, isn't it? So why is it that important that we should always count our CD4 cell counts, our CD4 cells, so that we know how many soldiers we have that are meant to fight the HIV virus, isn't it? So it is actually important that people that are HIV positive will actually be able to know how many these CD4 cells that they have that can actually fight away the HIV infection. Because if you have too little, you're supposed to get a lot of treatment, isn't it? And then if there are many, then it's okay. So you're always supposed to be monitored. Okay, so usually when a person wants to get their CD4 cell count, they have to go to a big hospital so that this test can be done. But now, there is now what was called the PIMA point-of-care, whereby you can now get your CD4 cell count at a clinic being done by a nurse. You don't have to travel long distances. So the problem with what we had in Zimbabwe is that pregnant mothers, they also needed to have, those that are HIV positive, needed to have a CD4 cell count done. And they were told they had to travel long distances. You know how it is like in the rural areas, whereby you have to travel long distances in order to go to a district hospital so that you can get this. And also, sometimes you won't have the money for the transport money to get to that hospital. So what has now been developed is this thing that can, this small little instrument that is actually portable. And then when we did the research, we found out that it can actually just be used by a nurse. Before, your blood will be taken, and then it goes to a big hospital. But the nurse can just prick, can just take a finger prick. Can you open this?
Are you pricking me?
Yeah. And then the nurse will just put the blood here, close it, and then place. And then after 20 minutes, you get a result, your CD4 cell count. Okay, so that is what is available. So what we did in Zimbabwe, we actually said, it came into the market, and then we said, let us test this to see whether it works. So these are the features of this small machine that you can actually get your results in 20 minutes, and you get just a drop of blood that is put as what is shown there. And then you just run the test. After that, you just get a printout of the results. And it actually says how many of those body soldiers you have. So in 2010, we did an evaluation to actually take this small little machine. We took some blood from some people, and then we said, let us test it on this small machine. And then we also did the same test on the big machine. And then we found out that the results are just more or less, they're just the same, whether you do it on the small machine or on the big machine. So we advocated to the government to actually, to partners, to actually ask them, please can you buy us these machines so that they can go out to the small little clinics. And Zimbabwe, we're actually the first country to actually publish this work to actually say that this small little machine actually works in the same manner as the big machines, and it can also be used by nurses. And I've also been, I was invited to China, in some small town in China, when they saw that published paper to actually say, please can you come and tell us concerning this machine. And I remember when I was in China, there were some people who had never seen Africans. They would actually rush out to say, look, I was like I was walking on the moon, because people were just like following me, looking at me. So really, I had to go and also present to them that we have these small machines that can actually work. So we advocated to partners, please can you buy us these machines so that they can be used in our rural schools, in our rural areas. And the UNICEF did buy 45 of them, and then they were now being used by the nurses in the clinic, as you can see on those pictures, whereby they will just take a prick, put that gadget in, and get a result. And when we did an operational research that was sponsored by UNICEF, for us to go and see what is actually happening on the ground, there were so many places that we actually had to reach. So you can actually see with the bad roads. And I remember even another one time when we were trying to cross a dry river, our car got stuck. So you can imagine that there are people that are out there that are in such hard to reach areas that need access to these machines for their care. And after we did that operational research, we've also published and also gave recommendations on how we should actually be used. And of course, we've been making so many presentations at international conference, even the International Conference of AIDS and STIs in Africa. I did that presentation in 2013 last year. So these are part of the innovations that are actually coming up so that they can help people at point of care. People would never have access to HIV monitoring and care. So there are actually a number of machines that are coming up, and we're actually even also evaluating them at our reference laboratory. And another one is to actually diagnose HIV in babies. You cannot do it with the normal that we do Because with the normal that we do, it has to come to a reference lab, and we have to process samples from throughout the whole country. But we want this test to be done at a point of care. Because the results come out after maybe 30 days, which is not good. We would like our babies to actually have results after 20 minutes, and then you know whether a baby born from an HIV positive mother is HIV positive or negative. So we are actually in the process of evaluating more new point-of-take technologies that can actually be used at a point of care, at a rural clinic, so that mothers do not have to walk long distances or not actually just be able to go because they don't have money for transport. Thank you very much.
And that's something to be proud of, as she rightfully mentioned, the first country in the entire world to prove that this small machine that I held up actually performs and works just as well as the big machine. So that's something that we should definitely be proud of. Thank you very much, Doctor. Now, if you've ever been on Twitter, I'm sure all of you have seen Sir Nige. Whether you like it or not, he's either in your timeline or being retweeted into your timeline. And Sir Nige is extremely passionate about technology and community-based initiatives, and was a mentor at the recently organized Startup Weekend, which was held about 2 weeks ago and the first of its kind in Zim. He uses social media to encourage social engagement through the platform 263 Chat, which won him a Highway Africa Award, a New Media Award in 2013, which focused on innovative use of technology for community engagement. Nigel holds an MBA and a degree in accounting. He is a board member and co-founder of Hypercube Technology Hub and a board member of Prosper Africa Film Fund Zimbabwe. Please help me welcome Sir Nige himself as he gives a presentation on 263 Chat and social engagement.
Protocols observed. Good morning, everyone. Just to kickstart, how do I? Yeah, here we go. So my real name is Nigel Mgamu, but as my comrade here said, some people call me Sir Nige. Even my mom calls me Sir Nige these days. These are all my contact details, and I love social media. I created over 18 months ago, I created a hashtag and a Twitter account, 263 Chat. And at the time, it was just a hobby. I like talking, I like discussing, I like talking to people. I want to understand how the youth, how we think. I know 70% of the population are the youth. So I was really intrigued in how do we find out what the youth think? And more often than not, they're on their little phone, on WhatsApp, or on Facebook, on something, tweeting and sharing their thoughts. And so that's why I created 263 Chat. The key word here, the main reason I created this was I feel that we don't talk enough. We don't talk enough to each other. We don't talk enough about some of the challenges that we face or some things that are going on in our society. And so that's why the main reason I created 263 Chat. I also created 263 Chat because of my aunt. So I keep talking about this lady. I talk about it all the time, but this is my real aunt. My mom's, my dad's sister. And she lives in the village, about 75 km from here. But she's not part and parcel of the Zimbabwean discussion. When I pick up the paper, when I read the newspapers online or in hard copy, I don't hear her voice. When I listen to the radio and I watch TV, I don't hear her story. And so what I wanted to do was to create a platform that allowed us, in the long term, to be able to include her and her life in our daily conversations. So it's just some interesting stats on Zim. According to the latest census, so 67% of the Zim population live in the rural areas, and 52% of the population are women. Those two stats represent my aunt. And as I said, she's not included in the discussion. So what are the 263 Chat objectives? The idea is, effectively to create local content. You want the journalists and so forth to pick up some of the conversations that we're having and actually write stories or produce films or whatever on some of the stuff that we're talking about. We also wanted to help Zimbabweans and non-Zimbabweans understand Zimbabwe better through dialogue. I also wanted to create this, to crowdsource some of our solutions. So let's understand issues like domestic violence. You know, how can we stop that, or how can we reduce that? What are the issues that have taken place in society? And I also wanted to change and influence, in a small way, the Zimbabwean narrative. I'm tired of us talking about politics and diamonds and politics and diamonds and politics and diamonds. You know, I'm not a farmer, I'm not a miner, I'm not a politician, and my aunt certainly isn't one of those people, but her story isn't being told. And I wanted us to sort of talk about our real reality. And of course, the ultimate aim with 263 Chat is to somehow involve my aunt in the daily conversations going forward. So we've got a couple of projects that we have, 263 Chat projects. We have a weekly 263 Chat discussion on Twitter, Facebook, currently every Tuesday at 6 p.m. We also have 263 Chat live events, so we meet in a room like this and we talk, we have a panel of experts, we try to get a policy maker, and we also have 263 Chat interviews that we now host. We put those on SoundCloud and share those with other people, and we've got a new little production called Conversations with Sir Nige. So we sit down, Sir Nige buys you lunch, breakfast, or whatever, and we sit down somewhere and we have a conversation, we just talk, and someone comes and films, and we try to create a show, basically, based on your conversation. And then, of course, the big project that we're working on behind the scenes, no longer a secret, but we've got a 263 Chat app that we're developing. So we want to increase the dialogue, we want to find out what people think, raise awareness and so forth, and we think that it's important to actually have an app that does that. This week, we spoke about GMOs. So here's an example of a tweet from someone. These are just some of the kind of comments and suggestions or thoughts that people have. And what we're doing is just to try and encourage people to have, to share, what do they think. So here's a classic example. People need to be fed. We have a populace surviving on a meal a day. If it'll alleviate that, then why not encourage GMOs? That's a thought there. Another one, the issue of GMOs has already gone out of control. We just need to go with the flow. That's another thought there. Another thought here, a nation which doesn't feed itself or supply its own food is weak and subject to foreign control. So these are some of the thoughts regarding GMOs, and we had this discussion just this week. Then, of course, the day after, so on the Wednesday, I think Wednesday morning, this guy here said, look, GMO debate yesterday revealed the depth, knowledge, and wisdom people have. A pity policymakers don't crowdsource ideas. So this is the kind of work that we're trying to do. We're trying to put it out there. It's out in the public domain. It's on Twitter, Facebook, whatever. It's not a secret. But we just want people to talk, and I was hoping that policymakers will listen. Some of them are listening. Some of them. And they tend to be the younger policymakers who are listening. In some cases, I'll actually keep these conversations, I storyfy them, and then I actually send the relevant policymaker and say, look, did you know that this is how people feel about health? Did you know that this is how people feel about this? And that's the kind of stuff that I do behind the scenes. With the 263 Chat live events, so this was last week. We had the Honorable Mkhululi and a representative from Zambia and another local lady. We're talking about child brides, and obviously that affects some of the kids here. We know someone or someone in our family, or that kind of thing. And we just wanted to talk about it and raise awareness and say, look, this is actually taking place. It's not a foreign concept. It's not taking place in Botswana or South Africa. It's actually taking place here. So here's an example of our live events. We've obviously got an audience, because it's important to have an audience so they can talk and share their thoughts. This is a lady, I believe, from the UN, I think. She's sharing some information, and there's obviously an audience, as you can tell. We're just talking about child brides. My other project, the other projects that I'm involved in, I'm a co-founder and board member of Hypercube Tech Hub. And the idea is I believe in tech. I really think that tech can solve some of Africa's, Zimbabwe's problems. So what we try to do with Hypercube is to try and encourage collaboration, people to come through and work on various projects together. Sometimes we feel that, I've got my project, someone's going to steal it. And what we're saying is, you've got a similar project with someone else, why don't you collaborate, and together you can actually produce something that's bigger and more useful than what you're creating alone. So we've got a hub, we're based in Belgravia. Our operations manager is actually right here, Tabs. 2 weeks ago, as my brother here said, we hosted Startup Weekend. So the first of its kind here in Zimbabwe. I think they have 100 of these events, or they've had 100 events in different countries, different cities. And the idea was to get a whole bunch of people together. I think 70 people pitched their ideas. The crowd, interestingly enough, the crowd was a democratic system. The crowd chose 11 of those ideas, and we spent 54 hours working on that idea throughout the weekend. We've got some of the guys who were actually there, one of the guys with the 11 teams. And my role in this was to be a mentor. So I mentored the group that I was involved in. This is the group. That's me on what's his hand here, the right. These guys they're still working on it. The thing's called Students Online. The idea is, when you're looking for information, you want to go to, you guys are young guys, right? So you want to find out which school you want to go to for Form 1 or whatever. Is there a website, a one-place portal that allows for that conversation to take place? So these guys are working on that. And I'm still mentoring. We still have a WhatsApp group. We still talk and so forth. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm involved in. In conclusion, as I said, I think the use of technology is vital, in my mind, in solving some of Zimbabwe's challenges. And I think the mobile phone is an important part of that. And with that, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you. Need a hand over next?
Thank you, Nigel. Is there anyone in the audience who's 15 years old?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? At this startup weekend, there was a young man by the name of Tadiwa, and he was part of the team that came second. And can you imagine there's 15-year-olds who are contributing and coming up with ideas that are sustainable, that can create employment, that can help, build a community. And I actually had the pleasure of interviewing the interviews on my program and the winners on my program. And one of the winners from the winning group was 18 years old. So these are young people coming up with these ideas, young people spearheading them. And I alluded to platforms earlier. That's why these sort of platforms are necessary. And Jonathan Whittaker said to me on my show, he said, if we didn't have Startup Weekend, I probably would have been at home doing nothing, watching DSTV. But because this opportunity availed itself, I was able to come, collaborate, share ideas, and here we are with the project that we believe can make an impact. And that's one thing I want to mention about Sir Nigel. He's always online. I remember on his birthday, I was mad at him. I didn't tell him. On his birthday last year, he was probably on Twitter more than ever. And everyone was saying, Sir Nigel, enjoy your birthday. Get off Twitter, take one day break. But he's constantly working. He's constantly talking to people. And you'll see him throughout the rest of today's discussion. He's going to be online and probably, giving people some feedback on what he just talked about. So Sir Nigel, your passion is very, very it's admirable, and I encourage you to keep it up. Are you on Twitter, sir? Moving on to our fourth speaker, Mr. Mkhululi Ndlovu. He's a technovator, holds an MBA and a degree in computer science and statistics from the University of Zimbabwe. He has worked in the banking, health, education, and NGO sector, and in 2003 he founded his own consultancy, West Chase, that has developed and implemented technological solutions in over 16 African and Middle Eastern countries. He is the Harare Board Chairman of the Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce. He recently published a book on project management, and he drew lessons from this book from the work he did in developing his award-winning medical supply tracking system. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Sounding like a lot of things, but actually it's not. I'm going to share with you a secret, but I will not tell you now, because if I tell you now, you will not listen to what I'm going to tell you. Allow me to say all protocols observed. I know the minister is gone, but normally at ZNCC, we still have to honor him while he's gone. But I'll say all protocols observed. I think for me, just building on what Nigel has said, is to talk about technology and innovation. And I think for me, the best thing that I will start with is the signposts around us, because if we look at the signposts, what's happening around us, then we can then be able to build from what we see around us. We've seen a huge revolution in terms of mobile. The minister talked about it, Nigel is talking about it, the mobile phone. In 2009, we've seen that there's a huge growth. More than 103% of the population now mobile phones, meaning that some people have got 2 phones, some have 1. I'm sure in the audience, some have got 3. So we see a lot of that, and we see data as well. Internet access has been going up. We're about 5.2 million people now access internet. These are statistics from last year. So we see now, even at your homes, you don't have to go to the internet cafe to access internet. It's there, right in front of you. E-learning is becoming a reality in schools. You've got computers at schools and government-related projects. We also see increased awareness of technology. People now know about technology. The minister knows, your mother knows, your father knows, everyone is talking technology. And also we're looking at the price of the devices are becoming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. It's cheap to get a phone that is WhatsApp. And we've seen some telecoms providers offering bundles that are also cheaper. So it means access is becoming a reality. And mobile phones are everywhere. Even in the rural areas, everywhere you can see their mobile phones. And technology has become a way of life. If you are not online, you are not alive, isn't it? If you are not online, you are not alive. People don't know you. So we see that is a reality that's happening in the country today. We're talking about children. All of us were once children, and some of us are still children at heart. And this event really is about children. I think we need to think about what our children think. What is it that goes through their minds? There are many things, you know, they are very creative, they have many ideas, and they ask difficult questions, but I'll summarize some of these that are very pertinent, and I'm going to explain why. Obviously, the main worry is, what will I be when I grow up? And is the future going to be okay? People get to worry, the children get to worry. We've heard of children having blood pressure. Children do have blood pressure. They've got stress like anyone. They get to worry a lot. And also, can I play with my daddy's phone? How many of you say that? Dad, can I get your tablet? Isn't it? That's it. Or mom, can I play with my mom's tablet? So some children have made it. And will I do the same? You always look at what others next door and other people you can see and you want to aspire to become, isn't it? And they look at role models. So it's very important that your children get role models. So those are some of the thoughts. And to my parents, allow me to try new things. This is very critical when you allow your child to try something. If the child touches a button, the TV button, and you pinch them, you have pinched future innovation. By pinching that child, you've pinched future innovation. Because next time they'll be scared. I'm not saying when they touch fire, you must let them because you want them to learn from the heat. I want to show my mom my drawing. You know, certain times parents were always busy. We are running around. The child brings a nice painting. I look at it. No, look. Go and sleep, you know. That's how it is. But because I'm tired, I've had a hard day. But this is creativity and this is innovation. And also, am I allowed to play with my friends? Issues of engaging people, because with these tweets and retweets, we are going to become zombies. We are going to be strangers while sitting next to each other, isn't it? all of you are sitting together 5, but you're not talking to each other. You're talking to other people. You don't even know each other. Even at homes, we are seeing that dad is on the mobile, the mother is on the mobile, the son, everyone is there. They are there, but they are not there, isn't it? So we see that the issue of social connection is still important. And we need also to look at the final one, which says, I want my phone. My grade 3 daughter was saying, when am I going to have my phone? You know, my cousin got this new phone. So it seems connectivity and internet is becoming a reality. All these are some of the thoughts. And I think that's what goes through the child's life. A bit about what we do, I'm in technology space. For the past 8 years now, since 2006, we've been very much involved in healthcare, developing software solutions around healthcare. From, build tech solutions from outside the country, and we put value on it, or sometimes we build something from scratch to solve problems in the healthcare sector. So I'm going to talk about those a bit, so that just give you an insight in terms of the healthcare supply chain system and what we did. Remember, I told you I'll tell you my secret. I'll tell you at the end, so please don't sleep. The first one I'm going to talk about is the Zimbabwe Information System for HIV/AIDS Commodities Upgrade Project. We're talking about HIV/AIDS. The drugs need to be distributed to all the healthcare centers. And information of the distribution and use has to be transferred back to Ministry of Health. In the past, we'll do all this with paper. Then once we deliver, then someone has to go around the community and do surveys to say, okay, this is what people are using, and this is the impact, how many children are getting so many drugs, etc. We were involved with the project to computerize that, and as the drugs are distributed, information is captured on the computer and is brought to head office. So the scope was for us to upgrade a platform that was there already, to put it at the National Pharmaceutical Company. It's one of the clients that is focusing on distribution of drugs across the country. We heard that healthcare is very essential. It's one of the issues of society. Healthcare and education, like what the minister said, is very, very crucial that people can access medicine quite close. You saw how difficult it is sometimes to cross rivers to access, but in this project, we're able now to bring the medicines close to the people. Not only that, but get feedback to say the use, how many regimens, they call them regimens, were used by children, how many regimens were used by adults. So what happens, these reports in the past, they'll be brought by SWIFT or these courier companies. Now they come electronically and they are captured. Information about the ART as well as the male circumcision. And it will track also the patients, how many of them are taking the drugs, what's their condition and things like that. So the system assists in processing and management of reporting information and analytic decisions and forecast demand, because from what is happening, the statistics, you're able to see whether it's over coverage or under coverage. In so doing, you're able to save lives. So this is one of the projects that we worked on. And another project that we worked on, still within the same client, but funded by another donor, is a project around logistics management, meaning that we're able to calculate and count how many drugs we're distributing at each, about 1,600 centers. And this particular project won a global prize in terms of what they call the Global Science and Technology Prize. The whole wide world, basically what happens is that when you go to a site, like let's say a clinic, based on the information on the use of drugs, you are able to calculate that for the next 3 months, how many can be used from previous information. So what happens is that every quarter, trucks come, they go loaded with drugs and a laptop. They go and count first to say what is remaining, and then the computer will calculate the trend and tell you that you must leave 2 or you must leave 3. Or if they were not used, you would say pick up 3, and basically the truck becomes a rolling warehouse, meaning that data in the truck is on the computer. In the past, that was done using paper and pen. So you can imagine now how long it took for you to get the trend analysis. So this actually had a huge impact, because this project is about distribution of HIV test kits and antiretroviral drugs, as well as contraceptives and other fertility products. So with these projects, we have worked on it since 2006, and we've been constantly upgrading it for the Ministry of Health. And like I said, it's won a global award. So this, and also one of the ideas that came out of this was copied to Nigeria. Nigeria also got an award, global award as well, for the same innovation. So for us, we're very proud to be associated with this. So, but as you can see, there's a picture of a truck being loaded with goods and the delivery is being done. But what are the lessons that we've learned? Is that technology innovation in healthcare have benefited both the lives of children and adults. Because we know that two things are important in any society, education and health. And if you can be able to understand how many drugs are required and also how many are being used, how many lives are being saved, you are able to make a huge impact. And also by bringing medicine closer to the people, you get a lot of feedback. In the past, they will go to central hospitals or district hospitals, but we see that technology has helped things to, to be known here in the head office, while using a computer. In the past, it took some days. So information gathered is then helps the ministry to make informed decisions in terms of what's really happening. Remember the cholera situation. Without technology, it was difficult. You find an area will have too many drugs, and then the other area not have any drugs, and you see that the other side, the drugs expire. On the other side, there's nothing, and people die there. So by building a solution, you are able to rationalize the two. And also the issue of timeliness, timely deliveries of the drugs and also information has been useful because it actually helps the marginalized communities as well. Instead of them traveling long distance, they are able to get the drugs quite near. And then also the information gathered, it actually gives a positive impact to the society because of the visibility of what's really happening out there. And also technology gives you quick wins. Imagine in the past getting data, you'll need maybe 20, 30 people to go with forms, each community filling, then you take it into a bus, you pay for that and so on. Now we're talking maybe 2 or 3 trucks, 3 laptops, collecting information from 1,600 districts. So that's quite a huge impact and saves a lot of cost. And at the end of the day, we're about saving people's lives and children to become more healthy. We've heard of mortality figures. We're reducing those using technology. But I'll end by talking about what are the opportunities in technology. In the past, for you to become a successful person, you needed to build a factory, you needed a lot of money, you need to build machinery, everything. Now with technology and your mobile phone, you are able to access global audience for your products and services. With your mobile phone, you can talk to about 11 million Zimbabwe. In the past, you needed an army to reach each of the corners of Zimbabwe to sell your products. So it has made things much easier. So you can actually, these are low-hanging fruits, things that you can do at a very cheap cost. And the mobile phone also opens innovation to millions of potential consumers, like I said, as well as the global audiences within the internet. Say Naiji, I will tell you how many people he speaks to. I'm sure millions all over the world. And technology-related jobs worldwide are growing. So technology as a job, in the future, we see that most of the jobs will be technology. So it's something that you can really take advantage of and you grow in that field. And like I said, there are also free tools now for you to build some innovative technology solutions on the internet. Instead of downloading games, you can download these tools. I know kids are very keen in terms of playing games. My son, for instance, he plays games maybe for adults, but I don't even know how he manages because I don't play any games at all. And also, I mentioned the issue of free technology tools that are available, things like open source. And also, you don't have any hard rules when you're doing any innovation in technology. What is in your head, you can really build, just like that. You can imagine the ideas of Google and Facebook. It didn't take any, it didn't take you to build a factory and everything. It was just an idea. So we are saying one person with a good idea can change the world. One idea can spark a change. Just one idea. All the children here have got brains, isn't it? How many don't have brains? So with an idea, if you can think creatively, you start thinking of this idea to solve some of the problems that you can see in your community, you're already one step going. In conclusion, technology, innovation in healthcare has revolutionized the way people work, and I've talked about the impact in terms of the health delivery system. And then technology innovations are cheap to build. We built that solution, you see, 2 of us or 3 of us, and some of the people are straight from college, 23-year-olds, they build something that makes such a change. And also creativity and innovation must be encouraged starting from home. I mentioned about pinching your child when they are trying to do something or not caring about the picture. You're actually killing that creativity. We need to make sure that we encourage that, and any child has the power to build and deploy any technology, innovation. My secret, I'll tell you right now, I didn't know a computer until I was at university. I used to think a computer is the screen. You know that screen? I thought that was the computer. So until I went to university, I'd never seen or touched a computer. So what I'm saying to you, it is possible because you already have a computer on your hands. You can achieve more because you have seen and you have touched it. Me, it was my first time to go to university, and we had to go to this special room, the computer lab, to access the computer. Today, it's in your homes. So what can stop you from coming up with better ideas? It's all about you at the end of the day. You are the person who decides how you end up to be. It's not your mother, your father, but it is you and what is inside your head. So that is what I'm telling you. That is my secret, and you must take that secret and do something about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MK, for your contribution. For the young boys and girls, how many of you have grandparents who are struggling a bit with their hearing and you sort of have to shout when you're speaking to them? Hands up. Okay, we got a few. I can put my hand up too. That's going to be the topic of our next discussion, and Tendekayi Katsiga is going to be presenting some interesting information to us about the solar hearing aid. And before I go into his introduction, Charlene and maybe the few people who are tweeting, as we get ready for the Q&A, maybe just prompt people on Twitter if they have any questions for any of the 5 panelists, so they can come through so that we can read them out and have them addressed. He attended Micronix Technical College in Canada. Tendekayi is PACE certified instructor and an examiner. He has been featured in Newsweek magazine, National Geographic, for his low-cost solar-powered hearing aid. The hearing aid has been distributed in Africa, Brazil, India, Jordan, and China. He has won a South African Designers Award and National Design for Development Award. He believes that disability is not an inability. So please put your hands together for Tendekayi Katsiga, who comes to speak to us about the solar ear.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I was the first one to come here, and I'm the last to do the presentation. So that's mine is a story. I'm going to tell you a story. UNICEF representative, Deputy Minister of Health and Child Care, and absentee. 10 years ago, in fact, life's calling happens in any moment. Mine took place in a shopping mall. I met a boy called Tendai. Tendai brought a newspaper to me. He wanted to know the contents of the newspaper. Tendai couldn't read. I wondered why a 10-year-old boy couldn't read. But Tendai is hearing impaired. He's deaf. So, out of curiosity, I visited Tendai school just to find out what really took place. I found out that Tendai was a recipient of hearing aids through non-governmental organization. In fact, the whole school received hearing aids. But they only used those hearing aids for a week, for a month, due to the problem that the hearing aid batteries are expensive. One hearing aid battery costs $1, and it lasts for a week. People would rather buy bread than buy hearing aid batteries. So as a result, children are cut out of school activity. I also realized that most of the students, they couldn't read. So they were left out in everything in school's activity. But however, there's a saying which says in Africa, an African proverb which says, the sun does not forget a village just because it is too small. If you look at it, the sun is our natural resource. It's in abundance. You don't need to buy it. It's tax-free. We believe in unlocking people's potential. We believe in solutions. We came up with a solar-powered hearing aid. Can I have this? This is a solar-powered hearing aid. It charges your hearing aid batteries. You take it outside, and then it charges your hearing aid batteries for 4 hours. And the batteries last for a week. And the lifespan for these batteries is 3 years. So that means for a period of 3 years, you're not going to buy batteries. $10,000 units have been distributed throughout Africa. And we've managed to send 5,000 children to school with a solar-powered hearing aid. Our products enable a child to develop their hearing level, to develop their speech, thereby presenting them with an opportunity to go to school. We believe that through education, we can break the cycle of poverty. We hired hearing impaired people to develop this solar-powered hearing aid. So it's people who make what they use. Our workers are hearing impaired. We have distributed 2,000 units in Zimbabwe, solar-powered hearing aids, through Mercy Corps and Zevesenda and Mutare. Our main focus for Zimbabwe is for Zimbabwe to become the center of knowledge in Africa, in innovation and design for better hearing devices. Let's fast forward 10 years up to now. This is Tendai. He has become the instructor of hearing impaired people. He has become a world class. He's going all over the world training hearing impaired people on how to do the assembly of solar chargers. Through education, we can break the cycle of poverty. Well, this is now Tendai can hear his father speaking. He can hear his mother singing. Tendai loves to dance to music. My fellow visionaries, my fellow countrymen, I invite you at this moment to dance with Tendai. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Katsiga. Mama, who's doing the sign language? Any feedback from the kids? Do they have any questions, maybe regarding this particular presentation that we just heard? Please.
They don't have any question. Maybe it is because they just have to be exposed to the information first before we come here so that they can get the gist of everything. Then they can later on ask questions. If you become too fast on them, it will be rather difficult for them to understand everything. I thank you.
Thank you very much for all the work that you've done today. You've been working very hard. We appreciate that. We now want to open it up to you, the audience. We've just heard 5 fantastic presentations from our speakers today, but we want to hear from you. What do you guys think? Do you have any comments, any contributions? Do you want to challenge anything that you heard today? This is your platform. The floor is now open to you, and I can swing round with the microphone. And when you ask your question, just introduce yourself, your name, what you do, and then proceed with your question.
Hello, thank you. My name is Collins Nyamadzao. I am a fuels and energy engineer. I was invited here by Makamba here. I have 4 questions. To Dr. Morgan, it's an honor meeting you, sir. I thought the Blair toilet was invented thousands and thousands of years ago, and it's an honor to see. I was wondering, it's a very great tool, especially the human waste that will be delivered in what do you call it, the pit. But has there been value addition to the what do you call it, to the human waste that will be there? Like you're talking about urine, about the human waste, the gasification of the human waste to produce biogas for the people. That would be with the Blair toilets. And to Dr. Zinyowera, I know 30 days compared, 30 days is quite a long time to get your CD4 count. 20 minutes is like very, very good, but I'm wondering if we could make it any faster than that, if it is possible. To say Nige, I have seen that, I'm forgetting the exact words, but they are saying these social medias, you know, they are very social, but not social where you are being social with everyone else around you. How are you doing to curb those effects of people, you know, in the family, where people are having supper, dinner, or anything like that, or just seated and they're talking to say Nige on Twitter, WhatsApp, and all those kind of things. And to Mr. Mkhululi, just a wild guess. I want to hear your contribution. There's someone who told me that I will not be satisfied with technology until I can download food. How possible is that?
Great start to our question and answer segment. 4 questions. Dr. Peter Morgan, let's start with you.
Great question, as always. Thank you very much. Well, you talked mainly about biogas. I think that was the central theme. I remember many, I'd say years ago, but it could be decades almost. We did actually do some work with biogas with these Blair toilets in Henderson Research Station. And the headmaster actually produced biogas from his Blair toilet. And he showed us how to fry an egg on this gas too. But actually, it was quite a complex sort of arrangement, and it never took off. So I think the bottom line to so many of these questions is it is technically possible, but it is complex. And of course, usually those elegant, simple things tend to move more than the things which are more complex. I don't know whether that makes sense. But yes, it has been done, and it could be done again. But I'm not sure whether that answers your question. Does it? Oh, good, thank you.
I have tried it with using kitchen waste and eggs. It's as complex as you are saying. It's very, very difficult.
It's very complex, and in fact, to work at its best, biogas, you need a few cows around as well. And I'm not sure how many cows are walking around in the schools or certainly not in Harare. I haven't seen any. But it is technically possible. But as you know, as I said, things move best when they're elegant and simple. Yeah. Thank you. Well done.
Dr. Zinyowera, can we get this faster, from 20 minutes to possibly 4 to 3? Can it be instant?
Okay, I think you saw on my last, on the last slide that I showed, there are actually many other machines that are actually coming up. So a lot of companies are actually coming up with these point-of-care technologies, making them far much simpler and taking less time. So we cannot just start using a technology before we test whether it works or not. So it's our reference laboratory. We actually are testing these new technologies and see whether they work and how many minutes, and then we shall actually see the appropriate one for our country. So there are new technologies that are coming up that save less time, less manipulations, etc.
So, Nige? The question was about, people are trying to eat and so forth, and
yeah.
you're invading their company and privacy. Go ahead.
I don't think I'm invading as such. wouldn't see it that way. But I think, look, the onus is on you. In all seriousness, the onus is on you as an individual to regulate yourself. I don't think anyone can regulate how you use your phone or your laptop or your tablet or whatever. I've always said, one of the reasons why we have live events is because I feel that it's very important to meet face to face and to talk. I think it's important to sit down as a family and eat and talk about the day or whatever it is that people do. It all goes down to the individual. And I don't think that I don't have that kind of influence to say, guys, stop tweeting for the next hour. I don't think I've, so it's really about you and whether you want to partake in the family situation. But I think it's, you raise an interesting point where you talk about how we're sitting together, like it's like I'm sitting with my brother here, and we could be chatting online. And the kids these days, they spend a lot of time on their phones or on computers and so forth. For us, when we were growing up, my dad would change the tire, and we would spend the whole holiday just pushing that tire around the yard, and that was fun for us. I think parents have a bigger role to play now in ensuring that you have a balanced child. Not too much TV, not too much tech, not too much, balance, moderation.
My mom a couple of days ago was saying, look, we're in the same room, we're watching TV, can you get off your phone? But that was sort of my time because of work and everything to sort of catch up on what was happening in the day. But I understand what you're saying. And also, I think there's a time and place for everything. When you're having dinner, that's the time when everyone's around together, catch up with, with each other. And on the day's events, when you're having breakfast, before you go out, tell people what you're going to do. So like Nigel said, it's important to pick your moments. I definitely agree with him. MK, can we download food? When are we going to be able to do that?
Interesting question. Technically, you can't download food, but you can. I'll explain why. Because the way we hunt now, in the past we go to the forest, we look for food. Today is the same. When we're doing marketing, we go and meet people. So the internet allows you to meet people, and then you convince them. So it comes to you how to charm them so that they trust what you are saying. And one way is to make sure that you create a very good picture about yourself on the internet. For instance, if you put a name that is a bit not interesting, that's a bit rough, you're looking for a job, then I look at that name, then perhaps that's not the right guy. And the conversation that you say, I look at it, I see, this guy has got a funny mind, I will not take. So you need to dress yourself up nicely so that when people look at you, they portray you in a certain way. I will tell you myself, the technology world has given me a lot of opportunities. I get an email from Lebanon saying, we need you to do this. I've never met this guy. We agree on a figure. He says, your ticket is here. It's on, I print it, I go into a plane, I'm gone. I meet him at the airport, we do our business, I talk to you, and I'm done. 1 week, I'm back, and I've got food on my table. So it is possible.
Cheeky answer there. We have a question.
He is asking about the hearing aids. He is saying, where are they being sold?
I'll do the sign language with you. Okay, I'll also talk. Here in Zimbabwe, we sell them to this POCS in the center in Mkhululi. So you can talk to people in
See, wonderful. You can get them in Mutare, right? Okay, through Mercy. Cool. Let's start at the back, moving forward.
My name is Dr. Chanakira. I want to ask Mr. Tendekayi Katsiga on the hearing aid. How much are they? I'm just interested. I've got a granny that I live with, mother to my mother. She's 102 and she's still going strong, but I think the ears are weakening now. How much are your hearing aids?
Okay, well, first of all, it depends with the hearing loss, the level of the hearing loss. But I'll give you a range. They start from 300 going down to 200. They are 10 times, the price is 10% less cheap.
Right. Good afternoon. My question is to Sir Nige. I'm particularly interested in how social media engagement is going on in Zimbabwe. So my question is, why Twitter? Of all the social networks that we have, that we're using in Zimbabwe, I mean Facebook, WhatsApp, why particularly Twitter?
Good question. The reason why I chose Twitter was, see, if you Google my name, so Nigel Mkhululi, my real name, my government name, you'll find Sir Nige on Twitter. But that's because that's what I wanted to do. It was intentional. Whereas other people don't want to be known on Facebook or on Twitter, should I say. They want to be anonymous because they want to share, maybe sensitive for work or the personal life or whatever. Twitter, the one thing I like about it is that there's a limit, 140 characters, right? So you kind of have to get to the point quickly. Unlike Facebook, where you can write a whole once upon a time, I bought a cow, then the cow died. No, just get to your point. And that's kind of what I need, something that's concise. Because when you go to a policymaker, and I do this all the time, when you go to a policymaker, you want to show them that tweet. Honorable so-and-so, this is how people think. Did you know? Now, when it's a Facebook post, there's 10 of them, they're not going to read. I want something that's quick, and I wanted that the anonymous. I wanted it to be anonymous. Some people want to share issues about gay rights without their cousin or their aunt knowing. And what I realized as well is the kind of conversation that I personally had on Facebook, because people on Facebook tend to be my friends. They tend to be my aunt, my sister, my this and that. I couldn't get a real unbiased opinion. So I wanted to talk to complete strangers and get, this is what I really, really think. So that's why I chose Twitter. In fact, the app that we're developing, we're trying to make it so that, even if you're on WhatsApp or even if you're on WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever, we want to enable you to use however way you communicate. We don't want to change the way you communicate. We want to ensure that on the timeline on the actual app, that you can use whatever platform that's comfortable with you, while still ensuring that you are anonymous if you want to.
Hello, my name is Lilioa Samshonga, and I have a question and a suggestion for Mr. Ndlovu. Okay, I wanted to ask how you determine how many pills are required at which center, and if there are factors that you consider to determine the amount that is needed at each center, right? My suggestion was you can use artificial intelligence or neural networks to determine how many pills are required at which center. I think using neural networks, it will be more accurate.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. I will decide whether I want to answer it, but I've got my client who I can challenge to answer, because he's the one who will actually tell you how they do it. But generally, it's the issue of historical information that helps us build a trend. And also some of it is seasonality. If, let's say, there's going to be maybe rainfall and the roads are not particularly good, meaning that access won't be good, we can then add something extra on top of that. So it comes from the historical numbers. But also it's a method that was designed by the global development agencies and agreed upon with the ministry. So we can change something, but not to that level of, maybe more than what they give us as a brief. But definitely it's a very good idea. But I want also maybe my colleague, Mr. Nyabadza, at the back there, he can say something about that, about the issue of the drugs, because he works for the Ministry of Health.
Sorry, I wanted to say if you consider historical data, then neural networks are really suitable because though they have the ability to learn, you just train them and tell them if it's this season and the weather is like this, so this much foods are going to be required.
Okay. I think it's a great idea, but we can also discuss afterwards. Maybe Mr. Nyabaz wants to say something about it.
Yeah, anyway, I think it's quite good that you already mentioned about it's a global plan for Ministry of Health and partners to go on to the neural networks provided within the real-time sector. But currently, what we are basing on is a global trend and standards that Ministry of Health set up and set up as a policy that these West Coast guys are building a system that's based on an agreed policy at global level.
And I'm sure our 5 speakers aren't going to be so quick to run away. Like the Deputy Minister, they'll be here obviously afterwards. And if you guys want to talk in more detail, exchange business cards and contacts, they'll be here to do so.
Thank you. My name is Tinashe. I'm a student at the Institute of Technology. Okay, I said my name is Tinashe. I'm a student at the Institute of Technology, studying information technology. My question goes to Dr. Sekesai. The question goes like, firstly, I want to thank you, Doctor, for the great step towards health improvement and awareness for the CD4 count device. Thank you. Also, I would like to ask, Doctor, like computers, there are multiple devices. Today, I have seen it. I have seen your device. It works and uses one cartridge at a time, and you said it spends around 20 minutes to process it. Is there a way that you can improve the device so that it can be multi-port device, so that it can cut down on service time? Thank you.
On service time, so I guess what he's saying is multiple ports, right? Okay. Multiple ports, 4 people can prick instead of waiting one by one.
Okay. I'm not the manufacturer of this device. There are different manufacturers that actually manufacture these devices, and there are different companies. And there are actually some that are actually being developed, is what you are saying, such that there will be less time, that you can put a specimen in a cartridge and make it incubate for whatever minutes, and there will be several of them that can be put, such that the time to put into the machine can just be 4 minutes. So, as I have said, there are new technologies that are actually coming up to reduce the time, and before we can actually use them in our country, we have to evaluate, do they work as the same manner as the conventional machines that we use? So there are developments towards that so that the time can be less.
Going to take 3 more questions from the floor, and then we'll read some feedback that's coming up on the screen over here. I think some tummies are beginning to rumble.
Thank you. Afternoon, everybody. My name is Tendekayi Katsiga, and I'm a chemical engineer, amongst many other things. My question is for Sir Nige. Sir Nige, you mentioned your aunt, and I also have an aunt. And if I think of 263 chat and the gap between what we're talking about and addressing our aunt's issues, I can still see quite a large gap, because my aunt is not on Twitter. She's never going to get on Twitter. She's also in the rural areas. So I just wanted to ask, how are you getting closer and closer to talking to my aunt and your aunt and them talking to us on that platform?
That's a very good question. That's something, I guess, just in short, Rome wasn't built in a day. This idea went from a hobby to now what I now do every day. That question is something that until I've figured that out, I haven't won yet. Basically, we now use WhatsApp, for example. So you can share your thoughts. So you might read somewhere on Facebook, or put it this way: my aunt's not on Facebook, but she knows about Baba Jukwa. Okay, and every now and again she'll ask, have they found out who that person is? Okay, so that tells me something. That tells me that you don't have to be on Facebook or Twitter or any of these social networks to receive the information, right? You've got an aunt, I've got an aunt. There's nothing wrong with you and I tweeting how our aunts feel about water, service delivery, etc., etc. So we can speak on their behalf. I often do. The app is a step in the right direction, I think. We're trying to design it in a way that you can text us and it'll appear on the feed. So my aunt can do that. She's got a phone, she can text. So that's one way of trying to talk to our aunts. We're trying to get them to share their thoughts. We're still trying to figure out how we can talk back to her, but at least she can talk to us, and that's a step. So long hours, we're working on it.
I know Sonaj, we've had conversations. He's also thinking about taking 263 chat to the people, to different provinces, right? Yeah, so maybe the conversation could be at the village sooner than later.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bertha Ndlovu, and I work for Westchester Learning Solutions. So I wanted to ask all the speakers, the question is basically to all of you. We are in Africa, and we have a lot of basic issues to deal with. I just wanted to hear from you in your different spheres that you work in, how you can engage the policymakers in simple language to make sure that the issue of innovation, especially with our young people who are coming up, just doesn't become a trend that one day just goes away, but it is embedded in our curriculum, in the schools, and we continue to encourage it because this is a first initiative and we're very thankful to UNICEF, but how do we continue the fight so that we do bring out those inventors? Equally like him, I'm just so amazed that the Blair toilet man is right in front of us. I can't believe it. But how do we get these young people to get to that stage? And it just doesn't become an innovation trend that came and went.
That's a very good question. Also, what I've done, I didn't tell you this bit, but I'm actually an accountant by profession. And 263 Chat is actually a media company. So I didn't study this stuff. I studied something else. I found my passion, found my purpose, basically. And that's what I do every day. What I've discovered is I'm so passionate about the dialogue, because dialogue is what the 263 Chat product, that's what it does, that I will knock on their doors. And I won't stop. What I've found is when I've spoken to policymakers, and I think I said this in the presentation, the younger ones are a lot more open to innovation. Some of them are actually on Facebook and so forth, right? But to the guys in front of us, the kids and so forth, just keep at it. Just keep, if you found something that you really enjoy or something that you are working on, just keep plugging away. So I will not stop. If I go to one PIMSEC and he says, no, I don't want to see your email, I'll find another one. I'll find another policymaker. And that's probably why I'm sitting in front of you, because I refuse to quit. I suppose that's the best way I can answer that question.
Thank you very much. It's a big, broad topic, but I will just share my own thoughts. I think the first thing I said is about you, what you can do, not what a minister can do for you. Oftentimes, unless something comes into reality, it's not known. Before the aeroplane was designed, it was something that's not there. So sometimes when we create something and we say, there it is now, it becomes very acceptable. So it's about you carrying on and pushing hard, but also the family side. You need to encourage your children to think creatively. And when you think creatively, don't think it's about computers only. It is about doing things different. There are some things that we do, maybe in terms of service delivery, that we could do better, maybe by changing the structure of one thing, and then suddenly we can do it faster. So innovation is not really about creating something new, but it's about cutting time, saving the little resources that we have, and maximizing the resources. That is innovation at the end of the day. So in the family structure, we need to encourage our children to do things much better, much faster. In the school system, we must start having innovation clubs. We had interact clubs where we discuss issues like what he's saying. We're talking Twitter is doing the same. We now innovation where we can then encourage our children. We give prizes to create something out of nothing using maybe any resources that we have. You'll be shocked that we've got too much resources within what we have. Too much. If we look at the clothes that we have at home or things that we throw away, it's too much. But what can we do with it? So we need the school structure. And of course, then from there, government can listen by seeing the improvements that happens in the community level, then it gets moved up. Finally, we as Zimbabweans must recognize each other's creation. We must recognize if he's doing something great, well done. Not to only recognize what someone outside the country is doing and say, that is good, this is bad. If we start consuming our own products, then people will then be encouraged to build those. I think those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Really, I would also like to echo the same sentiments. I think our education system should also involve innovation as a subject at grassroots level. Really, we should also give school kids the challenges which are being faced by the country. You will find out that really these guys have got new solutions to our challenges. I think basically that's all.
I would like to just say that as for me, I was just an average student at school. Even at the university, I was just an average person. You know, not even coming first or last, but somewhere in the middle. But it's because I was interested in science. That is why I took even when I was married. That's when I did my master's degree, even my PhD. But it's because I actually had the passion, you know, to actually find out what it is that is going on. So it's important that you have a passion of whatever it is that you want to do and really pursue it. And, you know, and then you can actually ask yourself, what is it that I can do to change the world for other people? So really, you must, when you really want to succeed, be a servant to other people and really work hard at it, you know. And you know, you just come up, and yet the other people who used to come first and what, but they've not even done any PhDs or anything. But it's important that you work hard in whatever it is that you really want to do, and really see to it that you save other people in need.
Thanks. But that's a very challenging question that you put, of course. In fact, the roots of what's in the curriculum were laid down years ago, and I remember in the 1980s, some of the things that we talked about today were actually placed into the curriculum. The Blair toilet, I think, is already inside the curriculum. Even the concept of building is somewhere in the curriculum, and matters concerning recycling or composting or agriculture are actually already there. I think that what some of us need to do is to convince the decision makers on the curriculum that we need to update the curriculum to introduce concepts that have perhaps been introduced in more recent years, because it actually is quite an exciting, everything that we've talked about is really exciting and needs to be reintroduced into those school curricula. And I think we need decision makers within the government, and in this particular case within the Ministry of Education, to perhaps update their curricula and take regard of what's actually happened in the last 10, 5, even 5 years or 10 years, because it's revolutionary. We've heard that this morning. I grew up in an era when there wasn't an electronic calculator, and in fact we had to either write or use an ancient typewriter. But you know, that's sort of history, and it goes along also with what goes into the curriculum. So there are people within the government who listen and look, and they depend on good evidence being given to them. And if it's good and it makes sense, then perhaps there's a good chance that it could enter the school curriculum, and a modernised one. I don't know if there's anybody here from the Department of Education, but that to me, I don't know if that's an answer to your question. Was it? Is that what you were talking about? That's as I see it myself, because you know there's a whole world ahead of us that's just is unknown to us years ago.
This issue of innovation, Nigeria is now the continent's biggest economy. And what they've been able to do very well is they've been able to encourage this culture of innovation, this culture that you can do whatever you want. You know, we always hear Nigerians are notorious in several different things. That's because the government opened that sort of mindset up, and that's why you see their Nollywood industry raking in billions a year, their arts, their culture, their oils, everything, because they've been able to just encourage young people to pretty much go out and fail and get back up and fail again and get back up, and at some point you reach that point. And I think, and I was hoping that the Deputy Minister would still be here, because that's how government can play their part. Then it's up to us to then go ahead and install and implement that. But we don't need, as you know, one of you was rightfully saying, we don't need the ministers to tell us that. We must be able to take that initiative ourselves and sort of get the ball rolling. Last question. Do we have any? At the back. Sure.
Hello, my name is Brian Giz. I'm an artist. I have a question for Mam Tapuri. Just out of curiosity, on our PIMA machine, you said 45 were distributed, if I caught you right?
By UNICEF?
By UNICEF. So is the government involved in any way to distribute to those remote clinics and areas? What is it doing? What is their stance on that? Thank you.
All right. So after we had evaluated the machine, we saw that it works. Then we advocated to the government, to the partners, to actually say, please, can this be bought so that people will have access to these CD4 cell counts? So ever since 2010 to date, in 2013, we have now 336 of these particular machines throughout the country. And the National Pharmaceutical Company, which is also under government, and also my department, we have ensured that where the partners buy and the government buys, they put all the cartridges at the National Pharmaceutical Company, and then these are actually distributed with the drugs. So it is involved, and they know the importance of these. And of course, it is the nurses that are actually doing the work, you know, producing the results after every 20 minutes to the patients. So we are now actually advocating to the government to actually say, the nurse is, yes, we know that at least it's so simple that they can actually do this, but they're also overwhelmed with work. Please, can you open up more posts, or please, can you use other cadres like microscopists, because we're going to be having more of these point-of-care technologies. So through the operational research that we did find out certain things that we're actually appealing to government if they can be put in place.
Let's go to the screen. I see a lot of the tweets are actually what we've just heard, but let's scroll down. Is it possible to scroll down? Oh, we don't have time. We need to wrap up, Charlene says. thank you to you guys for organizing all of this. Charlene's been bombarding us with emails the last 2 weeks. You and your team did a fantastic job. I was meant to do some closing remarks, but I've been talking all morning. So I think one last time, can we give a round of applause for our 5 speakers? The world is yours. You guys can make it what you want to do. You can be what you want to be. And these 5 people behind me are a clear example of that. And you can affect lives from here all the way to Brazil, to Jordan, as we've heard today. Food? There's an exhibition outside by Techno Woman. Okay, all right. Exhibition outside, I think we're going to file out. Okay, so we're going to see the exhibition now, and then we can get some food in our bellies. Good weekend to everyone. Thanks for coming.